Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
We will gonna conduct our discussion in Romanian. So please, for anyone needing translation, you have available headphones here and translation. Ne bucurăm să vă vedem într-un număr.
We're happy to see you so numerous here, eager to listen to topics on energy and such an important topic as security in the Black Sea and Balkans region. Energy, as we see, takes an ever more important role in the discussion regarding security, not just energy security, but security in general. It is my pleasure to have with me today panel members that are highly trained with a high level of know-how. I will also take the liberty to tackle topics as complex as your training is. I just come from a summit of Euroelectric, an annual summit in Athens. I had the pleasure to listen there to the CEO of the Ukraine electricity company. It was a very special experience for me. We all know what the security situation is in Ukraine. We know how complicated its energetic situation is, given the massive destructions that the Russian Federation understands to cause with direct targets on the energy system. However, when you have before you the person responsible to keep the energy system up and running, given that it focused first on the networks and the Russian army is now targeting thermal power plants, and only 10% of the thermal power facilities function at this time. So you see the person before you and you understand how critical this situation is, because without energy, life takes another turn, takes another meaning, and then takes another challenge. So thank God we are far from these situations, but we should tackle the energy perspective of the Black Sea in the context of the ongoing conflict in the Black Sea at the border with Romania, and also the situation on the energetic context, quite complex in the Western Balkans, the Balkans in general, and in southern southeastern Europe. I would like to ask a question to all panelists. I kindly ask you to provide your answer and then to jump into more detailed topics. So I have a question on how we manage currently to put and to make sense actually for the energy system and the consumer, both the need for energy security and the need for energy transition, and maintaining at the same time an equation that is acceptable for the consumer. In fact, anyone can understand that we only defined the trilemma of energy. And let me also add that the energy trilemma, so the green energy, decarbonation, energy security, and at the same time affordability, is a trilemma. So they have to be provided in certain order, and at the same time solutions must be found that cover all three. So that is why I ask, and I will start with you, Chair Niculescu. I know it's a broad question, but from your perspective, how do you think we can tackle this given the situation in the Black Sea and the energy situation in the Southeast? Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers for extending the invitation. I'm so happy to be with you tonight. It's quite a broad topic, and the answer, in my opinion, would be that the solution consists in investments. The more we invest in the energy system that ensures a proper mix of electricity production, we tackle the supply and the affordability of the energy price in the home or residential and non-residential consumers. And from this perspective, Romania is quite persistent and consistent with the sources of funding at government level with a great level of funding, as I said, because we saw the energy crisis. So you spoke earlier of the war at the border, literally helping keep the light on for 2 winters. So we had a significant support provided, and we managed to do this because we had the energy system ready to do this, ready to provide and to cover the need of energy consumption in Romania, and we could also provide a helping hand to the Republic of Moldova. So why not expand this help to other countries when needed? And why not strengthen our position as a regional leader in energy? And I think in the current context, we've shown leadership. Let me briefly remind you of the project passed by the President of Romania on the production of offshore wind energy. This sector is for the first time regulated by a Black Sea country, and this places us first in the region. Coming back and maybe closing the comment, because I want to give my fellow panelists the floor as well. The solution, as I said, would be investments all throughout the chain, investments in producing electricity, in developing transport systems, because it's for nothing that we produce energy in Southeastern Europe as we do now if we are not capable of transporting it in the Northwest consumption area. Investments in distribution networks that have to cope with all challenges in this period, from prosumer to projects that have to be connected to distribution systems, digitalization, and so on. I could go on quite a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And we understand from you that investments are the first answer, the first solution to solving this rather complex situation. Let me now move to Chair Laurent Antal. And I guess, well, each speaker will get an extra question to the topic at hand. Could you show the specific perspective of the Energy Committee in the Romanian Senate? Can you tell us something about the offshore wind law that was recently approved? Let's face it, maybe Chair Niculescu, from his perspective, a former state secretary, should have answered this question first and foremost, because he was the initiator, or he fought, actually. I remember really fighting for this law. So please, Chair Antal, the energy trilemma, the Black Sea offshore wind, is this a solution? The technology there can bring a good thing? Hello to you. Thank you as well for the invitation. I'm truly honored to be here. Thank you, Mr. George Scutaru and New Strategy Center for extending the invitation. Well, I think that it's important to speak of energy security, as you very well did in the introduction. And lately, as often I go to conferences, I focus a bit more on what energy security means. We speak a lot of the energy security, but this definition of energy security, we don't detail it. Well, in my opinion, energy security is, on the one hand, the capacity to produce electricity, to distribute transport electricity, and last but not least, capability to defend this critical infrastructure. This is what energy security is. Romania is quite well off because we have the capacity to produce it. We have the capacity to transport and system operation. And I'll leave Mr. Safar for distribution and to provide details. There, indeed, major investments are needed, and Romania is a NATO country, so we have the capacity to defend these critical infrastructures. Of course, lately we've heard a lot of the energy transition, of this trilemma, and of course everyone wants to be part of the energy transition, wants to green the EU and the European continent, to set the tone that we will be the first to invest massively in energy or electricity production capacities from renewables. Even actually today, along Chair Niculescu, we had a meeting at the ANRE initiative in Parliament, speaking of possibilities to connect to the networks. Indeed, all distribution companies, transport operator, and Transelectrica and System Transelectrica have this concern currently. And I said, or I stated today within the a meeting that we're afraid, and we spoke of this quite a lot. But the transition, the energy transition in Romania, in my opinion, is rather slow. And let's talk numbers on this chapter that I believe is very important. 2022 capacity commissioned 25 megawatts, 2023 1,000 megawatts prosumers and only 450 photovoltaics and 70 megawatts wind. I understand that indeed starting this year we'll see a massive wave of commissioning these production capacities, but what is certain is this: we'll see major pressure on distribution operators because it is reconfirmed that the transport operator has the capacity in Romania. Investments are assessed at 13.13 billion euro to be invested in distribution and broadly put in transport in Romania. But being a politician, allow me to say that we are in full election campaign for MEPs, and we have to speak more of this energy transition because I believe that after the 9th of June, the European Parliament, first and foremost, will have the audacity and the political power to rediscuss the Green Deal and to rediscuss Fit for 55. Why? Well, in parallel, the US brought the Inflation Reduction Act, which eases investments in the US where the CO2 emission component is quite minimum. So, Sweden, for example, several industrial platforms relocated their production capacities in the US because energy is cheaper. This is, and it's not part of the green transition with that much focus put on it, and this might mean for the EU a disadvantage. And let me conclude with this: the energy transition indeed happens in Europe. There are very many countries worldwide speaking of the energy transition, but again, another important information, rather recent, the US, that we know from the election campaign in the US want to increase export on oil and gas products. So in the next 10 years, in my opinion, Europe will have to use natural gas, and Romania is, as I said, in a very good position. We have Iernut, 430 megawatts electricity, gas base. We have Mintia, 7,800 based on gas producing electricity. So the energy transition is important. Energy security, I referred to it being very important. Offshore wind definitely is very important. But until we reach those targets by 2030, I believe we have to be balanced and to focus on the necessities of the moment, of the now, and politically and at executive level to provide good programs for the industry to be able to also facilitate consumers for these electricity production capacities, because I heard the hypothesis that we invest in production capacities to become exporters, but everyone invests in electricity production capacities. So at some point we have to wonder who we export to. Thank you. Well, we find out from the chair that we need more investment. You heard already investments in progress that add up to millions of euro, and then consumption. True, we have to have consumption that keeps up with these capacities. Otherwise, you won't get your return on investment. And there's also the need for balance in using energy sources, which, especially for Romania, is obvious. And because you somehow moved on the floor to Andrei Safar, and you can speak in English if you so want. So, in addition, apart from the first question, Andrei, you have a broad experience. You were in charge of the implementation and commissioning of the largest park at that time. I don't know if it's the largest onshore wind in Europe, or Jalak. You worked on the banks of the Black Sea. You were in charge of a Turkish company. You now run a large energy group in Romania and in Bulgaria. Could you tell us, from your perspective, what is the solution for this trilemma?
First, and thank you for question. What is the solution? And honestly, it's not easy. There is no easy solution. The energy transition is significant change in everything which relates to energy, everything what we are using in daily life as energy. And if you are looking at energy transition only from perspective of electricity, it's just part of it, because we are using the electricity, we are for the heating, we are using electricity for the transport, we are using energy in many cases, and this energy transition, decarbonization, will mean that everything where we have energy, we use energy, and we produce some emission, it will move into energy which doesn't produce the emission. So that's something which, as well, the energy transition means that a lot of parts of the energy sector will be moving towards the electrification. So this is something where the consumption of electricity will be naturally increasing as the energy transition will be moving further, and the closer we will be to 2050, where we committed to be carbon neutral. Bigger and bigger role the electricity in that mix will play, and more renewables will play the role. And then the big question is how we are going to really keep the system running, how we are going to balance the system. So one of the big question is, what is the right proportion between renewable, decentralized renewables versus big renewables versus some balancing power, which is whether we are talking about the role of batteries, whether we are talking about the role of hydrogen. That's something which is really big question. And as you mentioned, I was in charge of building the wind farm, which was in 2008. Those renewables were possible to be built only with a massive supporting scheme across all the globe. Those massive supporting scheme, they really helped industry to transform. So we are now in the situation where all these renewables, they can be built without special supporting scheme. So this is something, those investments 15 years ago globally helped the industry to really become competitive and become an important part of the energy mix of the future. So when we are talking about the batteries, when we are talking about the hydrogen today, those are exactly in the similar situation. Those are technologies which needs a lot of support, and we will see. We will see whether those technologies will make it into the energy mix without any support, and that's one of the important questions. And it will decide how this energy mix in the future will really look like. So that's one thing of it. But what is definitely clear is every country across the Europe is taking certain strategic decision, is taking certain directions where the energy sector is going, where the investments are going. So you can see the countries like Romania, like Czech Republic, which significantly believe in the nuclear energy and believes that the nuclear power is part of the future mix. There are countries like, for example, Germany, which decided that the nuclear power is not part of the future, while they believe a lot in hydrogen, role of hydrogen, role of renewables. Future will show which way is the right one. But the most important for every country is to really decide and really invest, because not deciding, not doing anything is the biggest risk for the future, because if you don't do anything, you will not get anything.
Mulțumesc foarte mult. Deci, din nou auzi.
Thank you again. So we hear once again about investments. Everyone speaks of investments, so we need them in massive numbers. And we heard for the first time of electrification. This is a very important topic because it meets the question or answers the question of increasing consumption. Where will this come from? And let me now move to Mr. Brașovanu, with a twist in the question specific to the company that he represents. You represent a very interesting company because PPC has decided recently to invest massively in Romania, purchasing the Enel assets. And PPC has a strategic position and a specific strategy relating to the Balkans, the Black Sea, with the presence in Romania through the distribution Dobrogea, Muntenia South and Banat, but also the projects, the renewable projects in eastern Romania. I would like to ask you something specific, but do feel free to answer the topic how you wish. What is the contribution that the intelligence, the IT smart grid component will play, and how important is this component to help solving this trilemma? Thank you for your question, and I hope you can hear me. Before answering it, allow me to comment to what the previous speakers mentioned on the commissioning. Well, as far as the PPC Romania goes, the ambition is that by 2026 to commission production units 1.3 gigawatts green energy, in addition to the 600. So our intention to focus on green energy is quite visible. I do hope we meet at the end of 2026 and for this capacity to be installed and for you to be more optimistic on the balance between fossil and green energy. And now I'll try to answer your question. Well, Regionally, we'll see what the intention is. The corridor in Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, that is currently the footprint of the PPC group. This is what it wants, to have production capacities in different geographic positions, to have a good balance of the energy produced, to have that energetic independence. And also security, because as we heard from the other presentation, you shouldn't put all your eggs in the same basket. And you have to have a better training, for example, for energy. But on IT, I don't think we will continue. We can continue in this energy transition if we don't have a major impact in digitalization of networks. And it's just not just networks or the grids. I think, however, that is where the soft spot is. We speak of grids, like it or not just in PPC, but for the all large distributors in Romania, with an average age that I won't name, but it's over 30. So it's a shift in mindset, and grids are no longer unidirectional. You speak of prosumers whose number will increase significantly, and this means we can absorb information in the grid and the network and then to distribute them properly to balance them out. And all this can't be done without major investments in the grid and in the digitalization, control, to move from centralized to a decentralized model as the prosumer category entails. This is a basic, essential aspect without which the transition in Romania will be at risk if it doesn't happen. So as long as we digitalize grids, we increase the level of digitalization all throughout the regions, we will have a major amount of data that we are referring to. And if we speak of artificial learning and to be able to get all the benefits of the data that we collect, if we don't do this at best, we won't have viable networks. So through machine learning algorithm for renewables, you take a look at your production, you take a look at the weather history, you take a look at the history of components that malfunctioned, and you predict the estimated production. Also for grids, for predictive maintenance, you take a look at what happened in the past with all sorts of devices. You take a look where the quality of the network is not good, and you have all sorts of predictions to replace grid parts that are subject to idling or to non-functioning. Well, it's a lot of investments because digitalization, the network, this is what requires. And we come back to this topic of the panel, and not just in energy, it's all throughout. I didn't leave you by chance at the end for this round, because please limit your answers to 3 minutes so that we can take another round of specific questions. You represent a large technology company, and I'm absolutely certain that your company wants to take a significant place in energy transition, including solving this trilemma of the energy. What can you tell us, of course, briefly, on the available technologies to tackle the challenges that they have today, the grids have today? Well, they exist, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored. As far as the energy security goes, we see two important aspects. On the one hand, sustainability, both of the industry, the energy industry, and sustainability in general, technological solutions for sustainability all throughout the chain, production, transport, distribution, and consumption of energy, and the security part of the energy infrastructure. And this is where we are focusing on for technologies. We speak of the security of the energy infrastructure that is threefold. Of course, the actual physical electronic security that you have to provide to any, the cybersecurity as a service that you have to provide to this infrastructure, but the challenges on the transition to storage and fire protection. Remember what happened nearby Bucharest some months ago? There was a gas storage, there was a fire, where you store a lot of energy in a small place. The likelihood of a fire is quite high, and that is where other technologies come in to meet the benefits that the green energy provides. And all throughout this chain, I think that the greenest energy and the cheapest is the one that you save. Of course, the place where you produce energy, where you use it, takes you toward the transition of green energy. In Romania, we have the largest production of electronic hardware for automation in buildings, security in Lugoj. We invested in PV production, storage, and consumption so that we are net zero as far as the energy consumption goes. I think this is where the trend is to produce as close as possible, to store as close as possible to the place of consumption, and to save energy, both by optimizing the technological processes, because we have automation and optimization, and using efficient functioning digitalization solutions, cloud, IT, AI, to be able to have a predictable, not corrective maintenance. And of course, always when we speak of energy and cooling of buildings is one of the largest consumption of energy. So energy efficiency of the buildings is again part of the solution for energy security. So we have to have energy efficient buildings with automation systems. And it appears that the electricity and heat points are the solution, but these again bring some challenges as far as refrigerants go for these heat pumps that they use. And if spilled into the environment, they have an impact on the ozone layer. And I'll maybe provide details a bit later. Sustainability, transition to green energies all throughout the chain, including consumption, consumer, and security. Cybersecurity, actual physical security, fire security. These are new challenges that we have in the area. Thank you. So you see how we are slowly nearing the solution to this energy trilemma, because we invest in a balanced way, proportionate way, and we take care of consumption, because we can set up demand response systems to bring them into the energy equation. Then of course we have to electrify, which solves part of the consumption, and we have to reinvest. And we have to do this with a lot of IT and smart grids, and we also have to save energy. So maybe 50% of the trilemma is covered. Chair Niculescu, I come back to you. It's a turning point in the energy policy of Romania, and you, willy-nilly, play an important role in defining it. On the one hand, as a technocrat, yes, it's the energy policy as a technocrat perspective. Yes, I'll come back to you for the other one. So, we have, yes, I think soon we have to provide the final version, right? to the European Commission. So we have some targets that are negotiated, and of course the government is negotiating them, but you as regulatory agency have sooner or later will have to implement things that lead to reaching them. And then you're preparing the new regulatory period for transporters and distributors, gas and electricity. So it's a turning point. How do you feel right now? How much confidence do you have in finding the best solutions?
Obviously, after the 2.5 year training in the Ministry of Energy, in a rather difficult period, unprecedented crisis worldwide, prices unheard of in the energy market, the need to intervene, which was not easy to make, because after deregulating the market, it was not easy to decide on setting a ceiling, on capping the price for energy and gas. So everything happened very fast when the government, the Minister of Energy, had to react quickly to all the challenges in the energy market at that time. If we remember the apocalyptic news that we are going to be left without gas, that we started the winter, we are without proper storage, properly stored reserves. So we overcame all this. So I am convinced that we are going to make it. This is not just a promise of the head of the authority, but because it depends on the entire team of specialists there. Of course, this mission has a very important component, meaning the dialogue with those who are going to be impacted by the measures we will adopt. Since I started my mandate, I tried to turn the authority towards dialogue and communication with all relevant stakeholders in the market. And for me, actually, it is very important. If we have to get from A to B, we should take the journey together. I was never for taking the journey quickly, individually, but with serious partners who deliver, even if it takes a bit longer to reach from A to B. The forthcoming period will not be easy. We started discussions with the industry, with distribution operators for the next period to discuss on the tariffs for the next 5 years. We are also discussing for setting the rentability rate, which obviously should be to the satisfaction of the operators, so that they are interested in investing significant amounts in the networks for all the above mentioned components, digitalization, IT, and so on. They are so very important today, but also all these investments. I said that before. We need a balance between distribution tariff increase so that it does not become a burden for the consumer, for the end user. I have always been optimistic. I am convinced we are going to identify that option that gives the distribution operators all opportunities to come up with this very necessary money, so that there is no negative impact on the user. Thank you. Thank you for your very clear response. I understood everything I wanted to. It says 22 minutes. I'm going to apply some pressure on you to be faster with answers. So, Chair, you mentioned policies and the energy policy. You are closest to the end user. As a representative of the people, as a member of the parliament, maybe all of us, I'm not saying only the parliament, maybe we should all do more to educate the Romanian energy consumer on their more and more important role, because today the consumer is no longer just an insignificant element, the end user. The consumer is a player in the network, is a prosumer. They may charge their electric vehicle during specific periods of time when the price is lower. Do you think the parliament should also do more? A very quick and clear answer: yes. Consumer education is very important, but of course it doesn't only depend on the parliament. And I think that if we speak of the consumer education, we should look at the role of the companies in the field, distribution, transport companies, and moreover, all companies that are players in the field. We should look at facts. Why am I speaking of consumption? Why am I insisting that the energy transition is very important, but it needs balance? We know that the energy consumption is the mirror of a state. It gives you very important data, and for Romania things are very clear. The 5-6 terawatts per hour, which are no longer, we are talking now about 4-6 terawatts, almost 70% means industrial consumption, and the rest households. And the households in Romania would mean about 8 million energy consumers. Of these 8 millions, more than 80% would reach 80 kilowatts per month. It's, the bulb, the fridge, the refrigerator. So it's clear that unless we come up with clear programs for the so-called re-industrialization, and here I'm not only talking about the large industry, I'm also talking about SMEs, about those trading platforms in Romania, SMEs with 30, 40, 50 employees who produce something in order for they are also energy and gas consumers. In Romania, maybe I'm exaggerated, but before the energy crisis, not even the poorest citizens would note or would be burdened by the electricity invoice. The energy was cheap, both for household and non-household consumers. During the energy crisis, after the market liberalization, all of a sudden, because of the energy crisis, we had to get back to a regulated market. All the media at the time were against the actions taken by the government. What Mr. Niculescu has not mentioned is that Romania at that time was among the first countries to cap the price of electricity and gas, and that put an end to inflation in Romania. It was an assumed decision that is still in place. The prices are still capped, and now the politicians are working together with the regulators, the Ministry of Energy, on that transition period to return to a liberalized market. However, we need to educate the consumer, and I really liked your definition when you spoke of energy efficiency. The best efficiency is to reduce consumption, and energy efficiency is poorly understood in Romania. Do you remember the all media when we started to speak politically about energy efficiency? The media understood that we have to stay at home and suffer from cold, in the dark, but energy efficiency means efficient use of our resources. And with your permission, one last comment. We heard here about cybersecurity. In the context of energy security, I believe this is very important. Last year, I made a statement which was widely repeated in the media, in Cluj, in the Green Energy Conference. I said then that in terms of energy security, Romania is in the fog. I asked the participants, the representatives of the industry back then, if anything has improved since last year. My statement last year, I discussed a lot with with Niculescu, and I want to congratulate him because he's working so that the authorities dialogue partner both for politicians and for companies. But here, Andre has a very important role. Right now, we know that investments in energy security are not recognized by the national regulator. Of course, these companies are not charities. They are working for profit, so they will invest if they see they may have a return on investments. So energy security is important. We have the legislation in the field, and we have institutions which have competence, and they help companies. But we need to take cybersecurity seriously as well, because this energy transition, as you mentioned, this energy transition without high cybersecurity will be very complex. Thank you very much. Andre, I have a short question. Every new brand of the company you represent is property of one of the largest investment funds in the world, so probably the money is really not a problem. Moreover, this fund has recently invested in Greece, and I assume they are willing to invest further. What should Romania do? We have here the head of the regulation authority, the representatives of the committee in the Senate. So what should they do?
Before I will jump to answering this, you were as well mentioning the Euro-Electric Summit. The energy transition need for the investment is across all the Europe. So all the Europe needs massive investments in energy sector, in energy transition. This is one of the things, and it's going to be a big challenge for everyone, because at the end we are as well as every country, we are fighting for the resources. The production of the equipment is limited. Workforce is limited. So that's something which is going to be another challenge, and it's going to be much bigger challenge than money if there are good conditions. Because and then when we are talking about those investments, whether they can be happening or not, it's really important is to have attractive conditions in order to attract the investments. Attractive conditions doesn't mean that things should be expensive. It should not be affordable. Affordability is one of the important topic, which everyone is aware of, and no one is expecting that those investments should lead to energy not being affordable for the end users. But it's very important about having the clear direction. We believe as a sector that we need to double the investment as of now. So we need to invest double if you want to succeed in energy transition. Good news in succeeding in energy transition is something it's giving us the opportunity to catch up decades of development, because we are on the same starting line like any other European country. So when it comes to energy transition, everyone is starting in the same starting line. All of us, we need to rebuild the energy sector. All of us needs to build new sources of energy So this is great opportunity to, if we do the things right, we can really catch up the decades in the energy sector of development. So this is really great opportunity. But if we spend 1 year, 2 years not being sure whether we want to do it or not, whether we can, it is affordable, whether this is the right way or maybe we can wait, we are going to lose the train. We are going to lose the train when companies from Romania, which are doing the electrical installations, which are having experienced people, they will move and they will start to work on those investments on the energy transition in other countries. Because unfortunately and fortunately, Romanian labor force is very qualified and it's as well very well equipped with the language knowledge, so it's very, very easily commutable. And we are as well going to lose the train when it comes to accessibility to equipment, because everyone is looking on ensuring the equipment, everyone is ensuring to looking at the new technologies. The people which are able to implement those new technologies are not unlimited either. So we need to act now, we need to act fast, and we need to create the attractive environment. And underlining, having in affordability in mind. That's the important thing, but affordability should not be the excuse for not doing the things.
Mulțumesc mult, domnul Brașoveanu. Reprezentați toți o
Mr. Brașoveanu, you are representing a somewhat similar company owning a large distribution network and renewables capacities, especially since you want to invest more. Can you add to what we've heard? Maybe Andre missed something. So what should we do for you to invest, as you mentioned, 1.3 gigawatts by the end of 2026? What don't you have? What do you need? What's missing? What's missing? First of all, Mr. Niculescu, I'm happy to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, hopefully only good things. About you and about the entity you are leading, a lot. Maybe we discuss some more. It's interesting to see politicians, private entities and regulators so close. What's missing now? And I loved what I heard earlier. Education. We need to educate people how to optimize consumption, because we have limited resources, both in terms of money and of regulation framework, because we are talking about huge investments, but we are not talking about a regulation framework that enables such major investments. And especially human resources, unfortunately, at least in the field I'm working now, the digital, the brain drain we've seen in Romania in the past 25 years has been major, absolutely major. Probably you know that the second language in Microsoft is Romanian. Right now, many Romanians or Eastern Europeans are working for companies abroad, given the mobility. So what we should now is to show return on investment to investors and be able to deliver that in order to be able to keep our human resources in Romania producing for us. Thank you, Mr. Brana. Now, a huge tech company, you also have a factory in Romania. Do you intend to play an active role in cybersecurity? Maybe mainly in energy, or you'd rather focus on energy efficiency solutions? We cover the entire spectrum. We are an automation company, so both the hardware equipment we are manufacturing, they are designed to be secure for critical infrastructure applications. The software application, we provide are designed to be secured. So right now, of course, you can't be efficient unless you are using meta-analytics, unless you are storing data in the cloud, unless you are using artificial intelligence for predictive maintenance. So that requires predictability, cloud and cybersecurity services. So we provide the entire package, automation, equipment along the chain. The challenges we are facing are related, and the challenges we are facing, and for which we have solutions, are related to the transition to the green energy that brings about simple challenges we have not thought about right now. For example, you see photovoltaic panels on all buildings. There is no standard on fire protection for these panels and equipment. We developed a solution. There is no standardization, so I invite authorities and all actors in the market to participate in a dialogue. Yesterday I participated in a workshop on the topic, and I was talking with my colleagues from England to see what they do. They said, well, we don't have standards either, but we got organized and both professional associations and authorities and developed guidelines. Of course, at some point they will turn into standards, but we need here initiative to have a stronger dialogue, not only to provide transition, the energy transition. We need safe energy transition. We want to use the photovoltaic safely. We need to use the energy. We have the lithium and iron problem that can generate explosions or fires, and here we also developed solutions to protect storage, or we developed hydrogen storage solutions. So these are the challenges we see as an engineering company, and precisely as you mentioned, the cyber is crucial. All the equipment, all the software we produce in cloud solutions, we need cyber for efficient operation. So we play in the cyber and in the automation part. And then legislative challenges. Thank you very much. We have about 5 minutes left. We are doing great with time, and now I would give the public, the audience, the opportunity to ask questions, and we will be really upset if we don't get questions. Everything clear, right? Crystal clear. Maybe in the meantime I can add something we have not tackled, and I always insist on it. For everything we have discussed here and for the energy field, actually we are lacking a crucial document, the energy strategy. Mr. Burduja is a young, good, dynamic minister. Ever since he became a minister, he had this initiative, let's draft an energy strategy now. The document was drafted and is published for public debate. But we need to understand that the energy field, ever since we've had energy, whether we speak of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Economy, the Line Ministry, or the National Security Council, the energy is a strategic field. Unfortunately, in Romania, we have many strategies on paper, but for energy, we don't have it, not even on paper. So that means that all the actors in the field have done their best according to their wishes, ideas. And just allow me to give you some figures, because figures are clear. Since 2020, as we have not had an energy strategy on the chapter natural gas, AON or M has not released for tender new perimeters for onshore natural gas. The production in percentage terms from the already existing drilling facilities in Romania have decreased. Second, in the initial energy strategy, we had very significant ambitions to diversify the natural gas network. Since 2020 until now, well, little has been done, but far from what would be needed according to the energy strategy. So for Romania to be able to build or to fulfill its huge potential to become a regional actor and the energy hub in the region or in the European Union, well, it will be extremely difficult without this document. We know one thing, starting with 2027, due to the offshore gas exploitations at the Black Sea, Romania will become the largest gas producer in the EU. We need to have this document. All of us should be insisting for this, pushing for this, because it is crucial. Well, it's not that Minister Burduja needs me to defend him, but as a member of the board or of the council working on this strategy, I have to say that we are about 30 people working under the coordination of Minister Burduja to finalize the strategy, and he is one of the people who actually, yes, this is what I said. He is the minister who started the discussion again, and I want to congratulate the Minister Burduja for thinking of the strategy. I want to thank everyone, both panelists and audience, for having listened to us for about 1 hour. I think we have solved, at least in part, the energy trilemma, and on behalf of the two colleagues managing important energy assets, I think we have good news. It is clearly assumed that there is a need for investments, both by the authority and by the parliament, and just like Mr. Niculescu, I am optimistic that Romania will reach the 2050